Greetings, scholars, and welcome to Following the Gong, a podcast of the Schreyer Honors College at Penn State. Following the Gong takes you inside conversations with our scholar alumni to hear their stories so you can gain career and life advice and expand your professional network. You can hear the true breadth of how scholar alumni have gone on to shape the world after they rang the gong and graduated with honors, and learn from their experiences so you can use their insights in your own journey. This show is proudly sponsored by the Scholar Alumni Society, a constituent group of the Penn State Alumni Association. I'm your host, Sean Goheen, class of 2011 and college staff member. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. In this special episode, we speak with Lisa Kerchinski and Keith Graham. Lisa has served as Director of Career Development for the Schreyer Honors College since 2007, where she supports scholars and scholar alumni in a variety of career exploration and development opportunities. She also works with employers to recruit Schreyer Scholars for internships and entry-level roles. Lisa is a proud friend of the college, having earned a BA in Interpersonal and Public Communications from Bowling Green State University and an MS in College Student Personnel from Indiana University, Bloomington. You can connect with her through LinkedIn or book an appointment at shc.psu.edu/appointments. Keith Graham brings both industry and academic experience to this conversation. He currently serves as the Associate Chair of Undergraduate Education in the University of Colorado's Department of Electrical, Computer, and Energy Engineering. He spent 31 years in the electrical engineering space, including roles at HP and Thorson Rocky Mountain. He earned his BS in Electrical Engineering with honors from Penn State's College of Engineering. He is also a volunteer leader in the Scholar Alumni Society, where he is the chair of the Career Development and Mentorship Committee. You can connect with him on LinkedIn. We discussed the following topics in this valuable conversation: Penn State's career days, how to approach this event and other career fairs, speaking with employers and follow-up etiquette, general job and internship search strategies, and other resources for Schreyer Scholars at Penn State. Now, let's dive into our conversation with Lisa and Keith. We're going to be talking today about Penn State's career fairs, mentoring, and other opportunities and resources for Schreyer Scholars that we have to offer. But would be remiss if we didn't start with just some quick introductions. So, Lisa, if you could just introduce yourself and what exactly that you do here in the Schreyer Honors College.
Sure. My name is Lisa Kerchinski, and I'm the Director of Career Development at the Schreyer Honors College. I've been in this role since July of 2007, so it's really evolved since I started. But some of the things that we do are provide opportunities for students to meet with alumni and employers by helping to schedule those types of events. Sometimes we take students to visit companies or nonprofits and other institutions that might be of interest to them. We also work with other units to co-sponsor events. And in addition to that, we have a mentoring program where we match people one-on-one. And we also are piloting mentoring pods this semester, where we are matching small groups of students with 2 to 3 alumni on a very specific topic. So I also work with all kinds of exciting things related to data and other systems behind the scenes. But my favorite part of my job is meeting with students one-on-one and helping them discover different resources that might be available to them here at Penn State and elsewhere, and connecting them with our great alumni. So that's kind of my job in a nutshell.
And that is a perfect tee up for my other guest today, Keith Graham, who is the chair of the Career Development and Mentorship Committee on the Scholar Alumni Society. Keith, can you tell us a little bit about your role as an alumni volunteer and how you work with both Lisa and I to support students?
Thanks, Sean. I've been involved since 2016. And in the last year, I've actually moved over from membership committee to actually the career and mentoring. And I've actually done that because one of my passions is actually helping our next generation students. And I'm actually involved just as well on the career and experiential committee for the Society for engineering education as well. So this is one of my passions, and so I work very closely with Lisa and Sean in developing programs. For example, our mentoring with honors, and we have this new program which we're all really excited to offer. Starting this fall called Mentoring Pods, and I believe we'll be talking about that in a few minutes.
Perfect. And if you could just maybe give us a brief overview quickly of your day job that actually, is not a volunteer role, but what you do for a living.
Thanks, Sean, and I think it goes really well with what I do with the career and mentoring program here at Penn State as well. I'm actually the associate chair of the electrical engineering department at the University of Colorado in Boulder, and I'm not a career academia. I actually have 31 years of industry, and then I came on board at CU. And one of my jobs also at CU is I actually run our internship and what we call internship for credit program, where actually I have a program where our students here at CU can actually get credit while doing their internships or co-op. And I have a lot of curriculum regarding that to help them do better, and I also help them find jobs as well.
Perfect. So it sounds like, whether it's here at Penn State or at CU, you're helping the next generation, as you said, of students find those opportunities. And Lisa, here at Penn State, obviously one of the signature programs for all Penn State students is the Fall Career Days. Could you tell us a little bit about that program and why our Schreyer Scholars should consider attending that event?
When we talk about career fairs at Penn State, the Fall Career Days is one of the largest career fairs in the nation. So that's a pretty big deal and an opportunity for students who are interested in finding an internship or full-time position to meet with employers, whether it's virtually or in person. So this year, it's going to be a little bit of a combination. So the Tuesday, September 21st, is the first day of the career fair, and that's in-person full-time recruitment. And then on Wednesday, the 22nd, it's going to be virtual full-time internship and co-op recruitment. And Thursday, the 23rd, it's virtual internship and co-op recruitment. Typically, what happens with Fall Career Days is that employers also, because they're here on campus, and again, this is a little different this year because we've got a mix model, but often they offer other opportunities for students to network with them in a more personal setting, or sometimes a really huge setting. So there's a mix. And one thing I'd like to put out there is the Fall Career Days is something everybody, I think, hears about and feels like they need to attend. And I'll put that out there with a little bit of a caveat. I think it really depends on what your interests are and what your goals are. So there are lots of students where this might not be a great fit for them, or this might not be the best time for them to attend the career fair. So if you're looking for research opportunities, for example, the career fair might not be the best place for you to start. The career fair, especially in person, can be really overwhelming because we have so many employers and there's a lot of energy and we have students coming from different campuses. This career fair is also open to the greater community. So it's a really big event, and I think it's a great opportunity for students to get a feel for who's interested in recruiting at Penn State and to interact with employers in person, either at the fair or in quasi in person through the virtual career fair.
So obviously we're recording this in late 2021, and we're starting to develop more of like these hybrid approaches where there's in-person and virtual. Lisa, I'm going to have you answer this first, and then Keith, I'd love your opinion from what you've seen at CU. Are there differences in the approaches that both employers and students should consider in the in-person element at, say, the Bryce Jordan Center or, wherever the facility at CU for a similar event versus how you would interact with an employer on, say, a Zoom session?
I would say that there's a lot more similarity than you might think of in terms of it's really important to be prepared. So you want to take some time ahead of the fair to look to see who's coming and come up with a plan. There's only so many sessions that you can do it in a given time. And so you're going to want to use your time wisely. And also think about whether there's an opportunity to sign up, which might be more of an option virtually. And also, so plan accordingly. Figure out who's coming, who you want to talk to, who's your A list, who's your B list. And also do a little research on how things work. So if you're going in person, you want to figure out, okay, so what do I need to allow time for? Transportation, check-in, those, finding the booth, those types of things. So the more you've done ahead of time, the more time you have to actually interact with employers. And similarly, in a virtual format, if you have done your research ahead of time, you've tested your systems and you know that all of that's working well, you can spend more time talking to people as opposed to figuring out how to log on. And then I would say in terms of other general prep, you want to look professional and you want to be prepared. And then also have done your homework on these companies so that you can have a quality conversation with them.
I think because of the pandemic, we, in terms of teaching, we've had to look at how we're going to do things differently. And we've actually, last year was all remote, and this year we're basically on campus. And same thing with the career fair last year. The career fair was remote, and we actually changed some things in the career fair. But as we changed things, we found some things actually worked better in the remote format. The one thing that I'm really excited that we're planning to continue as we move forward here at CU is roughly the month before our career fair, a lot of our companies who are visiting our campus are actually having either a 30-minute or 60-minute session to get to know the company. So it's sort of a more low-key type of opportunity because you don't actually it's all remote. But another way they're actually engaging with the students during these introduction type opportunities is they're giving you some tools for the career fair. For example, there are some that are talking about what should be in a resume. Another one is how to actually physically do the attend a career fair or do on-site interviews. So they're doing a lot of helping the student as they're also trying to tell the student about their companies, but also trying to give the students tools to be successful in their career fair and search. So I think that's a really a great change that we made last year, and both our students as well as our companies visiting CU saw that as a success, and so we're going to carry that forward, even though we're going to be hybrid just like Penn State is for this current fall, and we expect to keep it when we're full-time moving forward, hopefully on campus next fall. The one thing I like to stress is one of my roles as interns, director of internship here at CU Boulder, is I have a lot of freshmen who don't realize there's a lot of good opportunities for internships. And don't be worried that you don't have a lot of college courses taken, because the companies that are going to hire freshmen understand that. And there's definitely not as many freshman internship or co-op opportunities as there is as after your sophomore or junior year, but there's a lot of great opportunities. And I interviewed one alumni. Actually, it was great. I had on this video class I do on internships here at CU, I have these two alumni. And one alumni said the greatest experience they had from their first internship was realizing that they were not happy with their decision of what their degree was, right? And so, that was after their freshman year, and then she changed her degree, and then the following internships really solidified that she made the right decision when she changed. So it gave her a great opportunity, but she also really wanted to point out, even though she realized that that was not her career, she decided, I'm going to go and make it the best opportunity and experience as possible. And so then I interviewed the same person on my video, and I didn't know this beforehand. And I asked him, what was your greatest experience as an internship or co-op? And he said, well, mine was I didn't do one, and it really put my career back a couple of years. So I really want to stress that you should do internships if you have the opportunity. He was talking to his co-worker. by the time she started her career after college, she knew really what she wanted to do, and she could really be taking her career and running with it. Where, on the other hand, since he had not experienced his career during any internship, he had to learn that. And it took him a couple of years after he graduated to really learn what he really wanted to do in his field. And now he's really fully engaged in it. So there's a lot of good reasons to do internships. So once again, that's why I am the director of internships. I like to push them. So if we have any opportunities if you have any opportunities with internships, I highly recommend explore those.
I know what I'm hearing in this is there is a lot of homework that can go into approaching the career fair, just as it is a key part of the job search or the internship for a lot of students. And some of that is on you as the student, and some of that, there are great opportunities provided by the institution, whether that's Penn State or CU, maybe even at the college or campus level within the Penn State system. Or in some cases, the employers are stepping up and helping provide some of these opportunities, making sure that you get your resume in line. And obviously, the Central Career Services Office at Penn State does a great job of providing a lot of these resources for all of our Nittany Lions. But Keith, I think you made an interesting point, is that if you have the opportunity to do an internship, that you should do it. And I think that's one of the great things about the Schreyer Honors College, is that we have funding available for students to pursue those unpaid internships. I think there's a broader push in the zeitgeist around paying interns, which is great. That conversation is moving forward, but not every internship has that to offer currently. And so the Honors College does have that. And Lisa, you're a key part in helping to award that to students who are seeking these opportunities. Can you give a quick plug on how a student could access that?
Sure, it's really easy. And you go into the student record system, SRS, and you can apply for grants. So they're geared around unpaid internships and also unpaid research experiences. But some people are paid, but maybe not enough to support what it is they're doing, especially in high cost areas, which is kind of how this idea started, that we would like to provide these, not have students turn away internship opportunities because they're in DC or New York and can't afford to be there. So this supplements it. And then also there are other resources around the campus that offer similar funding. So students can often tier their funding a little bit to help offset their costs. One thing related to that, Sean, is when students go to the fall career days in particular, I sometimes find that they're a little frustrated because they think it's very much geared towards engineering, technology, and business students. And I would say that a lot of the jobs that are there are geared towards those fields. But I think students need to spend some time thinking about what other things are those companies doing that might be related to their major. And especially if you're in areas like science and liberal arts, you're not necessarily preparing for a career in political science or chemistry specifically. You might be looking at things more broadly. And that's, again, to Keith's earlier point, why internships are really great, so that you can explore these opportunities. And the thing with the career fairs, too, is don't put all your eggs in one basket. Sean had mentioned that there's a lot of resources here at Penn State, and there are. We have resources within Schreyer, we have resources through the Bank of America Career Services, and we also have in almost every college a career person who's also focusing on events and opportunities specifically for their folks. So don't be discouraged if you feel like you're not finding what you want. There are ways to figure out how to get to where you want to go, or how to explore the areas that you're interested in. And there are people here, myself included, who can help you figure out that process and how to get started.
Lisa, I really want to second what you were talking, what you just mentioned, where whatever degree you're getting, and you hear about this company, and you go, well, that's a finance company and I'm a sociologist, right? Why would they want to hire me? I'll let you know, finance companies actually like sociologists because sociologists is trying to figure out what is the trend in the future of society, right? And if you think people who are investing in stocks want to buy cheap and sell high, right? And so what they do like sociologists in their companies because they are looking for people that are going to help them figure out what are the future trends. Don't be afraid to talk to a company that you think is engineering and you might have a liberal arts or even engineering and it's a business opportunity because most companies now are a hybrid. They need all the skills. So the big thing is interdisciplinary work, not just between engineering departments, but between engineering and business, engineering and finance, art, physics, biology. So once again, do not be afraid just to go just because you think your degree doesn't fit the name of the company or the field that they say they're in. Most likely, they're looking for people for throughout the spectrum of degrees.
I think that's spot on, Keith. I was a political science major, and every company has to deal with the government in some way, and especially industries that are heavily regulated. And it's good to understand that space and understanding markets, and everybody needs human resources now. So there's lots of opportunities. So I think that's really good to look past what is their main purpose and where are the supporting functions in a company. So that's a really good point. And I think you made some good points earlier that internships are a really good way to explore a career path early and really make sure that you are going in the right major. And just last week, I was talking to a student during showtime, and she had that exact experience where her internship solidified that she did not want to be in that major and is pursuing a different one now that is more in line with what she wants to pursue. And so, I think there's a lot of opportunities here. It's not just homework in researching the employers that you want to talk to at the career days or similar events, but, the internships themselves. But obviously you have to get an internship first in order to have that experience. And Keith, I know obviously you said you had 31 years of industry experience before coming on to the higher ed side of the equation. What were the kind of things that helped if you were recruiting and talking to entry level employee prospects, if you were talking to intern prospects? How can our students set themselves apart? There's the kind of the classic elevator pitch. How do you develop that? You only have a few minutes at best sometimes with the employers. How do you leave a lasting positive impression?
I'm going to say it's very similar to my role as sometimes the last couple of years I haven't been looking at the graduate school apps because my new role is now undergraduate program here at CU. But it's very similar. We're looking for passion, right? And passion and interest in what you're applying for. So my background, recent background is what's called embedded systems. So if I was in industry, I would be looking for people in that elevator pitch really pointing out to me their passion or interest. And it might be that, they really like this particular course. So if you're a freshman or sophomore intern when you don't have a lot of work experience already, you might want to be talking about your passion and talk about your project in embedded systems in your class. So really, I think myself, looking at grad apps as well as when I was in industry, hearing passion, and because I think we all believe that you can actually learn the skills, but you can't always learn the passion. So if you're looking for something that you're really interested and you have the skill set, then you can be successful, and therefore I want to hire you.
I think that is such a good point. You need to help employers connect the dot to why you are standing in front of them or why you're applying, and same with graduate school. They're going to have a lot of candidates, and you also have a lot of options as a student for things that you might want to explore. So I think really being able to, if you're writing a cover letter, for example, they've pretty much outlined what they're looking for in a candidate. So even if you haven't done that exact thing, help them understand through your cover letter or in your conversation with them what you can bring to the table. And when you have that opportunity to be in person, don't squander it by walking up and saying, "So what does your company do?" That's a huge turnoff to companies. You should know what they do when you walk up. And there might be some opportunities where you're walking by a table and people talk to you and you're really not familiar because they weren't on your radar. I mean, obviously you want to go over and chat with them and make the most of that opportunity. But again, it's your job to think about what it is you want to get out of this process. And that does take a little bit of time and some effort, but it really pays off because that passion will show through, that preparation will show through. And you might even be able to say, I'm particularly interested in this area in your company because you've spent a little extra time doing research, and that's really going to help you stand out and have a more quality experience when you get that internship.
I was going to say, Lisa mentioned the cover letter. I also think a very important thing is the thank you letter.
Mm-hmm.
And the thank you letter has a lot of good aspects to it. One, it's very considerate, right? Because someone has taken time to interview me, and I'm going to thank them back. But a lot of times, at least for myself, I might leave a meeting or say an interview, and you go, I wish I said that one thing because that would have helped differentiate me from someone else or my project from someone else. The thank you letter gives you that one additional opportunity to help differentiate yourself from all the other candidates that are interviewing. So in the thank you letter, it's very appropriate once again to consider it, to say, thank you very much for the opportunity, for the interview. And I would say try to limit to one thing that you think that you might have forgot to say, or if you think you've said everything in the interview, you might want to highlight that again, what differentiates you from other potential candidates.
I think one thing too, when you're at the career fair, when you're meeting people, you need to be, you definitely want to make a good impression, but I think you also want to make sure you don't overstay your welcome because they really need to talk to a lot of people and so read the room, talk about what it is you would like, express your interest, ask maybe how you could follow up, ideally get people's contact information so you can follow up with them on LinkedIn or via email if they share that information, but also be cognizant that they are there for to talk to lots of students and be thoughtful about that and be yourself. So be your professional best self. Don't try to be somebody that you're not, and and if you're excited about something, that enthusiasm is definitely going to show.
I think those are all great points. And if you have listened to our conversation with Asia Grant, she also made a great point and provided some real detailed steps on doing thank you cards, thank you letters for any situation. So go back and listen to that episode if you haven't already. But going back to the idea of kind of the matching, right, that's going on essentially. Lisa, you said the companies are here. They're trying to talk to as many students as they can because they're trying to recruit a broad and talented and diverse candidate pool to consider for their roles, their internships. And you as a student, you probably know I really liked company A and company A liked me. I liked company B, but I got a rejection letter and it was very clear I'm not moving forward in the process. But what about company C? They liked me, but I just didn't feel like we clicked. And that's not an opportunity that I want to explore. And obviously, ghosting is completely unprofessional. So, how for both the student and for the employer? So, how do you turn down an offer to interview further or to not accept a role with a firm? Do either of you have any tips for our students who may be in that situation?
One thing I keep in mind is that often this might not be the right fit for you right now. So you want to leave, like you said, you want to be professional and not just not respond. And I'd also keep in mind that this is a snapshot in time for you. And in 3 years, perhaps they might be doing different things. You might be doing different things. So it's great if you can keep that relationship intact and graciously decline. So I think a lot of it is in that you do want to follow up and express appreciation for the opportunity, and maybe even say something that you really liked or appreciated about their company or the interview process. But then you don't need to be super specific about why you are going with another company. Just maybe something along the lines of, I really appreciate this opportunity. However, I've accepted another offer that aligns better with my particular interests in yada yada.
I think Lisa's very accurate on that, because say the person that you engaged with at company C, and actually you might have engaged with that person, but maybe not the company. 5 years down the road, that person that you engage with company C might be at company D that you really want to work for, right? And so one of the most important things is establishing a network. That's what you're starting here through the career fair and other paths developing your professional network. I tell my students, and this in my own personal case, I only developed one resume in my life, and that was actually when I was graduating Penn State. And all my other opportunities came from my network. And people coming in and asking me, would you like to work for here? We got this new project working and so forth. Or myself saying, hey, this sounds really interesting. Do you mind finding a role for me? And so your professional network is really important. And your reputation in that network, it takes a long time to develop, and you should start develop it right now. And that's being polite and considerate to all your contacts into the professional world.
I think that's a great word to describe a lot of these experiences that you're beginning to develop, whether it's your network or your experiences. And I'd like to take a minute to speak to particularly our first year and our second year scholars. Their resumes, probably a lot of part-time work from high school or here either around State College or around their campus that they're attending. A lot of volunteer opportunities, clubs and organizations that they're leading, but they don't have a lot of full-time experience. So how can they translate those opportunities, whether it's being an Eagle Scout, sports team captain, working part-time at McDonald's or Rita's Italian Ice, something like that? How do you translate those experiences when you're talking to an employer?
So when I think of a resume, and I've actually reviewed quite a few of my students out here at CU, the first thing I think you need to have on the resume, and I notice that a lot of our first and second years do not actually necessarily always have it, is what do you want to do, right? You might have a resume, and for example, I'm handing it to Sean, right? But a lot of times at the career fair, Sean's not the one who's going to be making the decision of whether I get employed or not. They might be moving it to human resources or to whatever department it would be. And some other person's going to be looking at that, at your resume, and they've never met you before. And then they start looking at the resume, they don't know what you want to do. So I always think it's very important, at the very top of your resume, of what you would like to do. And, depending upon your degree, it could be quite different. So that's really important. And the second thing is, resume should be like a newspaper. The most important thing should be up front. And when I say the most important thing up front is what is going to, in your view, be most appropriate for that job, right? So if it's not for a lot of our first and second year students here at CU from engineering, it might be some classes or projects that they've done, right? I want to really showcase what projects I've done for my first internship or my first job. And so they want to, you should put that first, because people are going to read until they get bored or tired, because they might have a stack of 100 of these resumes. And they say that the average resume is looked at for only 7 seconds. So you want to have the most important to least important to keep them engaged all the way down. Then if you don't have a lot of work in that particular area, then you have to, I think, showcase the important skills, which we call essential skills. How you do teamwork, how do you interact with others, because in reality, I have this course with our interns that what makes a star engineer isn't how that you got a 4.0 in college, that you are the most best programmer, best designer. Really, what makes a star engineer is all about your essential skills. So you would like to highlight those essential skills at the top of your resume, and that's what I would suggest if you don't have a lot of work experience.
Kind of building on that too, those are really great tips. You don't need to say something like, I am a team player, right? Instead, you might want to say something like, worked with team to develop thus and such project for yada yada class for this company. Led team of peers to execute something. So show them and demonstrate through your description how you're doing these things, how you have these skills. And similarly, if you have worked in a lab or you've done some skills on campus, you can talk about those as well. And sometimes it's also particularly helpful, especially with technical areas, to highlight those skills in a section and to list, for instance, programming skills. I've had first year students who haven't taken a class that might normally qualify them for an internship, but they had skills that would be really useful for certain companies and would probably propel them ahead of a lot of sophomores and juniors. So they want to highlight that, even if that's something that they learned on their own or through a club. If you know how to do it, put it on there and list it. And I love what Keith was saying about projects. It could be student teams and so forth, just highlighting what you've done. And I think providing a little bit more detail on that. And if you do have part-time jobs, that's great, but you don't need to put a lot of detail into what you've done there. I think people have a pretty good idea what a lifeguard or cashier or babysitter does. So maybe just a couple bullets, but you don't need to use a lot of your space there. You're wanting to demonstrate your responsibility. And for example, the Eagle Scout one, not to belabor this, but often people, for their first resume, it's pretty tough. That's a lot of project management, and you're also managing a budget. You're managing a team. You are having your liaison between a lot of people. So, and the agency that you're communicating with, where you're doing the project. So think about what you actually did, and there's a lot of resources out there for action words that you can utilize as well as you're starting to think about this. And there are a lot of resources around campus for people to give you advice on your resume, including your peers, especially business students. They usually have really great resumes, and are happy to help you get that first one started. And I would advise against using a template, because they're great when you're doing your first one and horrible when you're trying to edit them. So just use a Word doc and start from scratch.
All good advice. And one thing I will throw in here is, Keith, you mentioned you had just kind of the one resume. I would argue for essentially two resumes. You have your current one sheet that is the most up to date, down the line, if you've had 10 years experience at a company, and those are the kind of things that you want to highlight. But I would also recommend, especially if you're still in college listening to this is a great time to do this, is keep what I would call kind of a life resume. And this is not one you're ever going to submit to a company, but this is a document that keeps track of literally every opportunity, every class, every club that you've been a part of. Eventually, being a lifeguard, the Eagle Scout project, those are going to fall off of your resume in favor of your more recent, more accomplished full-time experiences, your internships. But it's good to be able to remember down the road those dates, those locations, those managers that you may need to call upon for something, and it will surprise you when these things will pop up. So highly recommend keeping that lifetime resume that only you're ever going to see, but will help you jog your memory well down the road when you're in the places in life that Keith and Lisa and I are. So want to recommend that.
Sean, I wanted to just highlight that even further is in my internship course here in interviewing one of my alumni. She suggests you should be doing that every year to prepare for your annual review, right? Because when she came up to her first annual review and she had to remember what she did for the last 12 months. And she was able to remember the real important highlights, but there was a lot of important things that she would like to have added, but she didn't remember until afterwards during her discussion with her manager. So I think, and she suggests is when you're at work, the same thing. What you mentioned there for and that's a great idea. But even for your annual reviews, you should be recording what you're doing, right? And then in your internship, a lot of our interns actually at the end of the semester of the summer have to do a presentation. Right. And so it'd be good for even with an intern, start recording what you're doing throughout the internship so that when you do that presentation at the end to your team or to some management, you actually have more data to fall back onto.
Yeah, ultimately, all of these things come down to how are you demonstrating value, whether it is to yourself, because I think oftentimes we are our own harshest critics. I think there's some ideas out there about folks who maybe don't feel that they have all the necessary skills for a job, and there's different levels of percentages that you feel. But that's a great point, Keith, on your annual review. That's your time to shine. This is your time to show, hey, here's all the things that I've done for this college or for this club, for this company, whatever position that you are in, to show like, hey, I add value here. And hopefully then it could lead to a raise for you if you're in a paid internship or in a full-time role. And so that's really, really good advice. So going back to the career days, kind of wrapping up, it's a week-long thing. There's so many opportunities. You've got employer sessions that you can check out and kind of dive in deeper. Maybe they're helpful practical things where they're doing resume reviews like we've talked. But the week's wrapped up. We've already talked about thank you notes, which is a crucial part of any job search, whether it's now in college or down the road. Always good to, if you can, send a card, at the very least an email to show some level of communication there. But do either of you have any advice on other actions that you should take after the career fair is wrapped up?
One of my favorite things to do, because I think this process can be a little overwhelming, is to create a spreadsheet to keep yourself organized. So one tab might be what employers you spoke with, maybe basically a list of employers. And did you speak with them at the career fair? Did you apply online? Both, vice versa. So that, and also in that have the people that you spoke with, as well as maybe any upcoming deadlines or events for that company, so that you can kind of keep all that together. And then if you've also been networking with people outside of that company, you can either include that on that same page or maybe even have a separate page for networking and informational interviews, which is where you talk to somebody about their company, their experience at a company, or with their position without necessarily applying for a job. It's just purely educational and professional networking. So I think keeping some kind of system for yourself other than what is available to you in Line Careers or Indeed or Idealist or other places where you're applying, your own spreadsheet. And there are going to be places that you want to keep in mind besides the career fair. So I think having a way to capture that in an organized, easy, updatable way is helpful.
Some things that I really like is, and it might be more helpful if you're further up in your career at Penn State, say junior or senior, because you might have had some other students that that are now working at that company, right? And so use that network, right? And use that network to maybe learn a little bit more about the opportunities that are available there, so that if you do have that call back, you have done some of your homework or you can engage in your homework. They also might be a good potential ally if it's in the same group that you're getting hired, right? So I'm really big in your professional network. So I'd really highly recommend follow up with your network that you might have, and you might just be starting the network. But another good place to start the network are the recent graduates from Schreier's, and use that network.
Perfect. And I think it's always good as you're building your professional network to start to make those connections. Lisa, you mentioned kind of informational interviews or just coffee chats to talk with folks before you're job searching, before you need something from them. So you have that relationship built in a very authentic way. And then when it comes time to be hired or volunteer or whatever it is, they're ready and happy. They already know you from that authentic place to hopefully hire you. So the career fairs are wrapped up. You've done all this things, but that's just 1 week of the year. Lisa, I know there's a lot of other opportunities throughout the year for students looking for internships and jobs, but also for students who are looking for fellowships, graduate school, professional school. Can you talk about some, at least briefly, because there's a lot, but an overview of some of the other opportunities that go on at Penn State throughout the year?
Absolutely. So we coordinate together across Penn State these large career fairs. So there's this one in the fall, then there's one in the spring, but there's also career fairs focusing on social impact opportunities. The Office of University Research and Fellowships will also do sessions throughout the year to help students learn about how to do research and how to explore fellowships. And then they'll have much more in-depth sessions about the process for various fellowship applications, and also things that help fund graduate school, like the NSF application. The different colleges often have sessions about applying to graduate school, internship searches, and so forth. And then there's collective programs that we do around the graduate fair event that happens later in the semester. So there's events that talk about how to apply to medical school, law school. There's a pre-med, or actually pre-health office, and an office that helps with people interested in law. So there's so many resources for students, which is good and bad. I remember sitting in a session where people were talking about all these great things that Penn State has to offer, and I'd never really thought about it from the perspective of a student in I guess how that could be super overwhelming, right? That there's just so many, and that it's on you to figure it out. But I'd like to just really emphasize that it is your responsibility to read your emails, and it is your responsibility to make your network and get to know your faculty and build those relationships. That is your responsibility. But there are so many people who want to help you and help you figure out how to do this. So if you don't know how to get involved in research, or you're not sure what this University Research and Fellowships Office does, or what career opportunities there are for you, start somewhere. So I would recommend you start with me, and I will point you towards the right resources. But start somewhere. And in my office, because I work with students from all majors and all the colleges, and I also know my peers and what they're doing in their colleges, and I work with all years, I think I'm a really good starting point to really help you figure out next steps. And then what I really like about what Penn State has done is they've customized things. So for instance, the College of Comm, they really have created a lot of opportunities for students to work on projects while they're undergraduates, because those projects are really important for them when they're doing their search. And then knowing that those employers often aren't going to come from New York and LA to recruit students, they've created programs for students to get experiences, and they take students to New York and DC for job fairs. So make sure you're taking advantage of those opportunities. And I know you don't want to read your emails, and you have a lot of emails. I understand. I do too. But read them, delete them, save them, put them on your calendar. But that is often where that's going to be the first place you learn about something. So until we have some better way to deliver messaging, I highly recommend you just spend a little bit of time reading what's sent to you from all these people who want to help you advance your career.
I think a key takeaway there, Lisa, is that a real benefit of being in the Schreyer Honors College is, first and foremost, you are a Penn State student. You have central opportunities like the Bank of America Career Services that we've talked about, who hosts the career days and other opportunities. That's a great resource. Your college, first and foremost, you may be a student in Penn State Abington, or at the College of Engineering, or the College of Agricultural Sciences, or at Penn State Altoona. You have opportunities in those locations. And so our office that Lisa runs here in the Honors College is an additional layer of opportunity. And to your point, Lisa, you're a great navigator. You are a wayfinder for our students. So a great entry point, because it is overwhelming. There are so many opportunities. We're not lacking for opportunities at this university. And so you can help shrink that down. That's a common refrain in the Honors College, is that we're helping to make a very big place small, and as part of that community. But obviously, there are some perks to being in the Honors College. There are some unique opportunities just for our scholars. Can you talk about some of those opportunities that you help students who, if they're in Schreyer, they're putting in the work, that they can access, that you can help them find?
Right. We talked about the grants, which I think are a really great opportunity, and especially if you can layer those on with other offices. We also do a lot of sessions specifically for scholars. So we work very closely with the University Research and Fellowships Office, and we try to target different programs for different stages in your career path. So there's some introductory things, as well as things that might be a little bit more geared towards seniors. We have employer events. The majority of our employer events are hosted by scholar alumni, which is a nice added bonus. And they're usually pretty small. We're talking maybe 20 people, or if it's a bigger event for us, it might be 60 people. But if you were going to that same event at another area on campus, there'd be hundreds of people. So you really have an opportunity, I think, to get more of the one-on-one time with people. And these are people who understand the rigor of being in the Schreyer Honors College, and who really, really, really want to help scholars with their next career path. And we'll have throughout the year conversations with alumni, where it might be a small networking lunch where they can just talk to you about what they do. Maybe they went to graduate school. So we offer a lot of opportunities throughout the year. And in addition to that, those are things that we organize, but then we also help students find matches through the mentoring with honors program. And also we're going to have our mentoring pods this year. So there's a lot of opportunities for you to either have a one-on-one longer term relationship with a mentor where there's an opportunity to ask questions throughout the year and really build that relationship, or there's a lot of opportunities for you to have kind of a one-off conversation, quick question, or maybe help with preparing for an interview. So we have quite the gamut of resources for students.
And of course, there's also this podcast. We'll be putting out episodes approximately weekly on Tuesdays, which is the same day that you get your newsletter during the semester, every week during the fall and spring, every other week in the summer. So make sure, as Lisa said, you are reading your emails. So we're wrapping up here. Keith, if a student listening wants to get in touch with you, or an alum wants to get in touch with you to maybe talk more about how an alum can be of support to your committee on the Scholar Alumni Society, what's the best way to get in touch with you? Is it LinkedIn or some other avenue?
LinkedIn is fine. I also don't mind people just sending me an email, just like Lisa said. We all get a lot of emails, and it's really important to follow up on that. So my email address is Keith, Keith, .a, for my middle initial, .graham, GRAHAM, @colorado.edu. And I would welcome any emails that anyone would like to talk about this topic or some other topic. The one thing I'd just like to reemphasize is don't be afraid of applying for a job. You look at the job requirements and you say, gosh, I don't fit 100% of that. Probably no one fits 100% of the job requirements that they ever post. But if you feel like you do the majority of them and you have the right general background and the right passion, that's what most employers are looking for is, do you have the general background? Because you can always learn a new skill. But you can't, like I said earlier, you can't always learn the passion. So if they can find someone who has the general background, who's passionate about an opportunity, you should apply for it. And a lot of times those, you'll find out you don't have to have 100% of the requirements because generally speaking, most people don't.
Sage advice. And Lisa, for a student who wants to come in and meet with you either in Atherton or via Zoom, how do they go about getting an appointment with you?
Sure. You can either go to the Schreyer, Google Schreyer appointments, and I'll be right there on the page. And you can also go to Nittany Lion Careers to book an appointment. That's the system that I use for booking appointments, which is also the same system that students can use to look for jobs and internships and also to register for events.
And we didn't even talk about Nittany Lion Careers or Lion Link. And so I hope that a takeaway is that we've only scratched the surface of a lot of the opportunities and the tactics. So continue to explore these other resources, continue to Google across Penn State, all of these different opportunities. But I would be remiss if I didn't wrap up with our tradition here on this podcast. I'd love to know, if you were a flavor of Berkey Creamery ice cream, which one would you be and why? And Keith, I'll start with you.
Oh gosh, this is a surprise question on my. Let's see. Actually, my favorite ice cream is coffee, so that would have to be coffee. Now, why? I actually somewhat feel like I'm addicted to coffee, but I actually really enjoy the flavor of coffee, and I'm going to say I would be coffee because I enjoy the flavor, and you should enjoy your career path. So that's why I would choose coffee.
Amazing. Lisa, I'll let you have the last word on your flavor.
There's a lot of pressure there. So I will go with WPSU coffee break. So similar, I love that flavor of mocha with the extra chocolate. So I would say, I've got a lot of energy, and I'm also, I don't know. So I have a lot of energy, and that's why I like that kind of ice cream, and you should come and see me so that I can use my energy to help you engage in your career.
Fantastic. Thank you so much to both of you. You heard how you can get in touch with them. You heard about what flavors of creamery ice cream there would be. Lisa and Keith are both great resources. Please take advantage of all these. Thank you both so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, scholars, for listening and learning with us today. We hope you will take something with you that will contribute to how you shape the world. This show proudly supports the Schreyer Honors College Emergency Fund, benefiting scholars experiencing unexpected financial hardship. You can make a difference at raise.psu.edu/Schreyer. Please be sure to hit the relevant subscribe, like, or follow button on whichever platform you are engaging with us on today. You can follow the college on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn to stay up to date on news, events, and deadlines. If you have questions about the show or are a Scholar alum who'd like to join us as a guest here on Following the Gone, please connect with me at scholaralumni@psu.edu. Until next time, please stay well, and we are